Well, hi everybody. I'm Charles Steinberg. I'm the president of your Worcester Red Sox. With me is Joe Bradley, vice president of your Worcester Red Sox, primarily in community relations and player baseball relations. And we were together with a Zoom chat that we had on Jackie Robinson's birthday, January 31st. And it was the annual telling of the story of Jackie Robinson. We love to do that on his birthday, also the eve of Black History Month. But you all sent so many good questions, there was no way we were going to get through them in the time that we had. So we thought, let's relax, sit back here in our offices at Polar Park and go through the questions, and let's see what we can tell you about Jackie Robinson. What schools did we have joining us?
Boy, Dr. Charles, we've got quite a lineup of schools that joined us last week, and thank you for joining us. We have Burncoat Preparatory School.
And Clark Street Community School.
We fix up Little League Field outside of Clark Street Community School.
Tris Speaker Little League, right?
Of course. We've got Lincoln Street Elementary School.
Francis McGrath Elementary.
Norbeck Avenue School.
Thorndike Road Elementary.
Wawekas Road Elementary. Apologies for any mispronunciations.
Worcester Art Magnet School. I don't think I mispronounced that.
Canterbury Street Magnet School.
Columbus Park Elementary.
Gates Lane Elementary, where we have a WooSox mentoring program with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
And more. The Goddard School.
Hurd Street Discovery Academy.
Quinsigamond Elementary School.
Woodland Academy.
Belmont Street Community School.
City View Elementary School.
Grafton Street Elementary School.
La Familia Dual Language School.
Lakeview Elementary School.
Rice Square Elementary School.
Roosevelt Elementary School.
Union Hill Elementary School.
Vernon Hill, right up there. Vernon Hill Elementary School.
Chandler Elementary School.
That's right here. Isn't that right? Right on
right
Madison.
around, yeah.
Let's see. Elm Park, another special school to us.
Flag Street Community School.
Jacob Hyatt Magnet School. We had some students here for Thanksgiving.
For the Thanksgiving luncheon, exactly right. May Street Elementary School.
Midland Street Elementary School.
Nelson Place Elementary School.
And West Tapnick Elementary School. So, what schools' questions are going to bat lead off?
Well, batting leadoff, we've got some great questions from Mrs. Cheryl Watson's fifth graders at Nelson Place Elementary. Let's take a look at this first question, Charles. Did Jackie Robinson ever play with Willie Mays?
Not in the majors. Jackie Robinson was so loyal to the Dodgers. They played back in Brooklyn back then, that when, after 10 years with the Dodgers, he was going to be traded to the New York Giants. They weren't the San Francisco Giants yet. They were the New York Giants. He would have played with Willie Mays, but he did not want to switch from the Dodgers, and so he retired after 10 years in Major League Baseball, and just 5 years later was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So they never played together, although they probably did on all-star teams.
Good point. Alrighty, how many home runs did Jackie Robinson and Mo Vaughn have?
Now, I won't tell you that I knew this off the top of my head, but I think you helped look it up. Jackie Robinson had 137, was not known as a home run hitter. He hit home runs, but he was an electric player on the bases. He could drive pitchers crazy. He would steal bases. He would dance off the base. He would confuse them. He would confound them. He would run. He was one of the most knowledgeable people in the history of baseball. Commissioner Emeritus Bud Selig saw Jackie Robinson play, said he was the most electric player he ever saw. Now, Mo Vaughn, major home run hitter. He's your guy.
Sure was.
How many did he hit?
He hit 328. He was my favorite player growing up. He was nicknamed the Hit Dog, and it's not every day that Worcester Public School students get to hear from a 1995 American League MVP. So
He was cool,
all fortunate to have Mo on the call. That was great. How about this next question? Were you ever disrespected when you came into the league because of your race? Sounds like a question directed towards everybody, and we sure know some of the stories, Charles. They certainly were.
Yeah, it is not an easy road being different. We all know that. We go through that in school. And yet the beautiful road is to embrace everyone, to know that we are all one and all are welcome.
Yeah, very well said. And this next question, what inspired all of you to play baseball? When I think about a guy like Will Cam Boyd, who we had on the call, he had so many family members who played baseball, and it was in him. It was a part of his. It was a part of his blood. What do you think about that, and some of the others who we have on the call?
In Oil Cam Boyd's case, his father played professional baseball, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, and his great-great-grandfather. I'm more interested in what's going to happen in the future when somebody is going to say, my grandmother played. And actually, we're not that far away. The next Jackie Robinson will be Jacqueline Robinson. There will be women who play Major League Baseball. It just hasn't happened yet. But there were women who played in a league of their own in the 1940s, and we became friends with them. And one of them is 96 years old, all the way May. And she's told me stories. And one of her teammates had a son, and he not only had a Major League Baseball career, he's been a manager right here at Polar Park when we played the Buffalo Bisons. Casey Candell. His mom was one of the best players of the women who played in their own league in the 1940s and 50s. So I think what I'd rather focus on is what's going to happen, because the woman who breaks baseball's gender barrier has probably been born, and she's probably playing. And I want us all to support her and the women who follow when they break in to professional baseball and Major League Baseball.
Dr. Charles, why was Jackie Robinson an inspiration to you and so many of us?
Think of how hard it is to not only be different, but to be the only one. Now, he was the only African American player in Major League Baseball, played only in the National League. The leagues did not play each other back then. And ball players are competitive. That part's okay. And you have to play at the highest physical level you can. That's the competition. But while you're doing that, people are going to taunt you, test you, see if they can break you. And Jackie made a promise to Branch Rickey, the man who you should give a big dose of heroism to, because he's the one who had the courage to sign Jackie Robinson, to go against all the other owners. They didn't want to break the color barrier, but Branch Rickey did. And Jackie made a promise to Branch Rickey that he would not fight back for several years. And so he had to take it. He had to hear what people said. He had to feel what he felt, and he couldn't fight back. And that, I think it took a toll, but that requires an awful lot of fortitude, an awful lot of courage. And I think that he handled it beautifully and proved to the world that African Americans could play with Caucasians, with white Americans. And that made so many dreams come true in baseball, in all sports. It opened the doors for our Spanish-speaking players. And I'm telling you, it's opening the door for the women who are going to play. And it is also the barrier that broke that allows every boy and girl to dream of the career you want. And no one's going to tell you you can't do it because you are fill in the blank. Jackie Robinson did that. That's why I think he's such an inspiration.
Another student wants to know, how hard is it playing baseball in front of so many people? The student's aware of how many people there are at ballparks, and even when you come to Polar Park, you see 9,508 on their feet cheering people on. That's a lot of pressure. The student wants to know, what does it take to perform in that pressure? Good question.
I surely don't know, because I was not a good baseball player. Joe was a good college player. I did not succeed on the field. I love the game, and I've been able to be in it my whole life, thank God. But some players can rise to the occasion. Some players can take the tension and the atmosphere, like David Ortiz, Big Papi, and he plays at his best in those situations. Some people would rather play with only half a dozen people watching them and giving them a little bit of applause.
Dr. Charles, one of the most beautiful things about baseball is how baseball brings people together from all different backgrounds, all walks of life. And yet, this student wants to know, is it difficult playing baseball if you have a different skin color and you're not white? Again, would have been a great question for some of our panelists to ask, but one thing that you and I have,
I think our students know the following. Tell me if you agree. The younger you are, the easier it is to play together. The younger we are, we just want to play. Something happens later. We get taught about differences that we don't see. When I'm in second grade and Jake Askins is in my class, I didn't think anything about differences because he was African American. He sat at my table and we drew airplanes together. I think the more interaction people have with each other, the more they become friends, the more they play together, maybe eat lunch together, the more people realize that any quirks or idiosyncrasies that you want to think make people different are way overshadowed by the things that we all have in common.
How many home runs did Josh Ockamy have, Charles? I think we looked this question up heading into the Zoom. Did we not?
We did. He hit 113 home runs. He could hit home runs, and one of the nicest guys that we've ever worked with.
And some exciting news about Josh. Josh is rejoining the Red Sox organization. He was in the Philadelphia Phillies organization last year after leaving us, but he has since rejoined the Red Sox now as a scout. So that's a really fun opportunity for Josh.
Yes, I hope he stays in the game. I always encouraged him, saying, play as long as you can play. But when you're finished playing, stay in the game. It's a good game.
Now, Charles, did any of our panelists, or you, or me, did we ever have to overcome any bullying to get to where we are today?
Oh my goodness. I remember in 9th grade, I would get picked on. It wasn't the first time. But a fellow named Brooke, he would just come and poke me or pinch me, and I couldn't fight back. I wasn't going to fight him. I knew fighting was wrong. You want to defend yourself, but you don't want to defend yourself by fighting. I would say quit it and stop. And it was annoying. But a funny thing happened. About 5 or 6 years later, I'm in college, and he transfers to my college. And he reaches out to me and he says, I'm going to be coming to the University of Maryland. He was nice as could be. And I was helping him with his acclimation, with his transition to my college. And I don't remember the words, but one day he said, I'm sorry I was such a jerk in 9th grade. And, everybody's growing up. Everybody's changing. Every year is different. 3rd grade is different from 4th grade. 4th grade is different from 5th grade. 5th grade is different from 6th grade. And I find that it helps the soul to forgive those who may have bullied you and to recognize their issue is not with you. Their issue is part of their own development, what they're going through. It may be something at home. It may be something they don't want to talk about. It may even be something they don't recognize. But you're not the issue many times. Get through it. Keep your dignity. Like Jackie Robinson, keep your grace. You just may find that person becomes friends with you years later, even when you would have been sure that wasn't going to be the case. I wound up being friends with Brooke.
And students, if you watch the movie 42, you'll certainly get a taste of some of the bullying that Jackie Robinson had to go through. Another student in Mrs. Watson's class wants to know, did any of our panelists ever meet Jackie Robinson? I don't think Frank Jordan did.
No.
He didn't, but Charles, I know that you've met
I came
Rachel
the closest.
Robinson.
Yeah, I've come the closest because Jackie passed away 51 years ago. Again, his life wasn't as long as you would have liked it to be, his widow is still with us today. She is 100 years old, Rachel Robinson. She is a model of dignity, a model of grace. And I've met Rachel Robinson several times. I've become friends with her daughter, Sharon Robinson. And I had a wonderful dinner with Rachel's son, Jackie's son, David Robinson, who came and visited us at the Boston Red Sox from Tanzania, Africa, where he's a coffee farmer. How about that? I also met a grandson, Jesse. So we know the Robinson family, but no, I never got to meet Jackie Robinson. I don't think Mo Vaughn did. I don't think Oil Can did, even though they would have known some people in common back from Oil Can's father and grandfather's days in the Negro Leagues.
And as you students heard on the Zoom, Mo Vaughn was the last Red Sox player to ever wear the number 42, which was very cool. So that wraps it up for Miss Watson's class. Thank you, Miss Watson's class, for those great questions. We are now on to some more fifth graders, but fifth graders from Mrs. Alexa Moore's fifth grade class at Vernon Hills School.
That is right up the hill from here.
Right up the hill. Jake would like to know, why did Jackie Robinson play baseball?
Well, baseball wasn't the only sport he played.
He was a great
He
athlete.
was a 4-sport star in college at UCLA. And he was great at baseball, but he was good at other sports too. And look, I love baseball. Baseball players love baseball, but it's okay to play other sports too. Try not to play one that you're going to get injured in or that's going to hurt your career. But Jackie loved baseball and was great at it. What you often find is that people do well at a sport they love, or if they love a sport, that's their best shot at doing well.
Jake would also like to know, why did Jackie not graduate from college?
Did he not finish at UCLA? I thought he did.
Yeah.
I thought he graduated from UCLA, and I may be wrong. I will go back and check that out.
We'll look into that, Jake. Thank you. Did Jackie have any brothers or sisters?
He
Charles?
had an athletic brother, so good, his brother Mac. His brother was an Olympian, and I believe it was the 1936 Olympics, where Jesse Owens was the most famous one. But I believe Mac Robinson, he may have finished behind Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics.
Great. And Yaxie wants to know about Jackie Robinson's military service and what he did after the Army.
There's a whole story, and there's a movie you can watch called The Court Martial of Jackie Robinson. And it was an example in the Army that he was going to advocate for social justice and was going to speak up against wrong when he saw it, even in the Army. So he had an active military career.
Aiden F. would like to know how and when Jackie Robinson passed away.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. It was an ironic thing. He had been in declining health with diabetes. And in October of 1972, as every October, you had the World Series. And because it was 1972 and he broke the color barrier in 1947, do the math, it was the 25th anniversary. Well, baseball honored Jackie at the World Series. Excuse me. And he said, I appreciate the honor, but I will feel better when I look over in that third base coaching box and see African Americans there. And look at the dugout and see an African American manager. That hadn't happened. Well, he passed away 10 days later. 3 years later, Frank Robinson, who knew Jackie, became the first African American to ever manage in the major leagues.
Aiden N. wants to know how long did Jackie Robinson play baseball?
10 years of the majors. 1947, and I think he retired in 1957.
When Jackie won his first game, was he booed? I think we know the answer to that, Charles.
No, when he took the field at Ebbets Field, which was where the Brooklyn Dodgers played, no, there may have been some, but no. I think the Brooklyn fans were supportive.
Yeah. Aiden good question. I know you wanted to know if it was specifically after a win or not, but we encourage all you students to watch the movie 42. Great movie. Francie Ellis would like to know, were there any Hispanics or Latinos on baseball teams when Jackie Robinson played?
No, he not only broke the color barrier for African Americans, he was the pioneer that allowed Hispanics and Latinos to play too. Later, you would have Roberto Clemente. Once again, the Dodgers were pioneers that way. They were way ahead. So were the Giants. The New York, San Francisco Giants also had signed players from the Dominican Republic. But between Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, all of that came after Jackie.
A couple of good questions here from Jalissa, who would like to know, did Jackie have any kids, and why did he join the Army?
Well, we mentioned, he actually had 3. I think he lost a son, I think to an auto accident. I think that may have been Jackie Jr. But yeah, David, as I mentioned, and Sharon, I've gotten to, thank goodness, know both of them. And what was the follow-up?
Why did he join the Army to begin with?
I don't know that one.
Drafted.
He was drafted into the Army.
1942.
Okay. So there you go.
And Anaya, she wants to know, how did he deal with racism as well as he did?
That's the lesson for all of us, is to know, as my grandmother used to say, it's not what happens, it's how you handle what happens. And what he had to go through as the pioneer in Major League Baseball, exclusively in the National League. Now, a man named Larry Doby had to do the same thing in the American League with Cleveland. It's lonely. And almost always, pioneering is a lonely road. Pioneering is a lonely road. Pioneering is a lonely road. If everybody understood what you were doing, you probably wouldn't be a pioneer. They'd all be doing it with you. But when you are that out front leader doing something that's never been done, it's hard. It's lonely. But my goodness, look at the impact you can have on the world. Jackie Robinson impacted your life. That's why we celebrate.
How many fans did Jackie have?
Oh my gosh. Here's an example. He begins play for the Brooklyn Dodgers on April 15th of 1947. 1 month later, on May, I believe, 18th, the Brooklyn Dodgers were playing the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field. A 13-year-old, well, almost 13-year-old, 12-year-old child in Milwaukee goes with his best friend, also about 12 years old, on a train from Milwaukee to Chicago, where this 12-year-old's adult cousin met them at the train station and took them. Now, they go to the game, and the place is packed. Now, this young man, this young child, 12 years old, was a Jewish boy. He told me many years later that the place was packed with African Americans who were so enthusiastic and so supportive and so vocal. But there's more. He said outside the ballpark, he said there had to be 20,000 more fans who couldn't get in. They just wanted to be there to support him. The 12-year-old boy was so moved by this story that more than 70 years later, he told me the story. And that's Bud Selig, the longtime commissioner of baseball, now commissioner emeritus of baseball. And he told me about the day he saw Jackie Robinson play for the first time and said those 20,000 people outside the ballpark showed what kind of impact it was having on America to have someone finally prove that we can all play together.
Last question for Mrs. Moore's class comes from Jaden, who wants to know, how did Jackie become such a big success?
He was good. He was a great baseball player. Remember, he didn't get in the Hall of Fame because he broke the color barrier. He got in the Hall of Fame because he was a Hall of Fame baseball player. And again, for those who play baseball a little bit, or softball, or any of the diamond sports, think about how exciting it can be when you're on the bases and maybe you're allowed to take a big lead and you're trying to distract the pitcher so that the hitter actually gets a better pitch to hit. That was Jackie's game. He could get on base, he could dance on the base paths, he could run well, he could not only steal second, he could not only steal third, he could steal home. Not many guys can do that.
Okay, thank you, Miss Morse class. On to Mrs. Vanessa Parker's fifth graders at Vernon Hills School.
Same school.
Why did Jackie Robinson support Richard Nixon?
Yeah, I don't know his political views, so I'm not an
We'll have
expert
to
on
look
that.
at okay.
That, and also that he, I believe one of the students had asked, why was he critical of Malcolm X? So I don't know those answers. I don't know that aspect of his life.
Okay,
Good question.
Let's go to Mr. Quincy Connolly's fifth graders at Lincoln Street School.
Hi, Lincoln Street.
How difficult was it for Mr. Robinson to play during his time in history?
How difficult would it be for you to do what he did? Apply the golden rule. It will answer so many questions over and over.
How did he become the first black baseball player?
Well, let's go back to Branch Rickey, the president and general manager of the Dodgers. Today's Los Angeles Dodgers used to be in Brooklyn, New York, and he was the head of them, and he believed that it would work. He believed in what some called baseball's great experiment, and he didn't believe that Jackie Robinson was the best African-American baseball player at that time. He believed he was the right African-American baseball player, one with the character. This is all about character. To persevere, to have the fortitude and the intelligence. Here's a story that Buck O'Neill told me. And Buck O'Neill was a wonderful Negro League player, the first African-American coach in baseball. And he told me this story. Jackie Robinson and his teammates were on a bus in the South, driving in the middle of nowhere. They came upon a gas station. The bus knew it was a good time to fill up. Now, the bus pulls over, and the players, all of them African American, it's a Negro League team, get off the bus to go to the bathroom. The owner of the gas station says, you can't use the bathroom. The South was segregated. Only whites could use that bathroom. Jackie Robinson said, take the nozzle out of the tank, guys. Well, now that gas station owner knew that the bus had a 50-gallon tank on one side and a 50-gallon tank on the other side. And he made money for every gallon he sold. He knew he was in the middle of nowhere. And he knew he wasn't going to sell 100 gallons of gasoline for probably another week. He said, okay, you guys can use the bathroom, but don't stay too long. Well, that lesson was one where Jackie Robinson used economics. He used financial pressure. He didn't use his fists. He didn't use weapons. The weapon he used was his mind. And that is one of the lessons that Buck O'Neill has taught and told me directly that helps you understand why Jackie was the right one. Great athlete, Hall of Fame quality, but one who knew that your mind is your best asset.
And it's a reminder, kids, we have a great Buck O'Neill exhibit at the Worcester Public Library that we hope you'll check out anytime you'd like. It'll be there through the WooSox opening day and into the first week in April. Next question, why did Jackie become a baseball player in the major leagues? We touched on that a little bit. We talked about Branch Rickey. We talked about Jackie's ability. Anything else you'd like to add, Charles?
No, I think you always have to talk about Branch Rickey when you talk about Jackie Robinson. We've gotten to know Branch Rickey's grandson, Branch Rickey III, and wonderful gentleman, and very proud, and knew his grandfather well. And think of the courage that it took for him to go against every owner of every other team and say, no, I want to integrate the game. It was not met with applause. Change can be difficult, but in your heart, you know already what's right and wrong. Think of these 4 values. You know what's good versus bad, what's right versus wrong, what's true versus false, and what's fair versus unfair. You already know that. The challenge is to live by those good values. It's not easy. And some of you will find that some of your friends or yourselves are the leaders when you can say, hey, that's not right. We do this. That's not a good idea. You know what the good ideas are. You know what the not good ideas are. You're going to watch it now as you go through school. That's the challenge, and that's where we really wish you well.
How many teams did Jackie Robinson play on?
Just the Dodgers once he got to the major leagues. He played a year of minor league baseball, AAA baseball, just like your Worcester Red Sox for the Montreal Canadiens the year before he was ready, and before that in the Negro Leagues. But only the Dodgers.
What was Jackie's childhood like? We knew that Jackie was a great athlete, but what else about Jackie's childhood? What we want to know.
I was with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I worked with them in 2008 and 2009. And when I lived there, I wanted to know that answer. I got in the car, drove up the highway, went to Pasadena, California, and drove around the neighborhood where Jackie grew up. It wasn't wealthy, but it wasn't terribly poor either, but it was working class. It was people trying to fulfill the American dream, just like every one of your families is trying to do. And he did. And you can too.
What encouraged Jackie to keep playing baseball even when he wasn't being treated well? This student wants to know, did he have any great teammates that he relied on? We talked a little bit about Jackie's great family, but this is a great question from the student.
I think nobody was more of a source of strength than his wife, Rachel Robinson. And again, think about it. She's 100 years old. To me, she's the queen of baseball. But baseball was actually his language. Baseball was the way he could say, we are equal. Baseball, by playing baseball, you don't have to say a word. You just play. Later, right after he signed, Branch Rickey wanted 2 more players who were African American to be signed by the Dodgers, and he signed them. And they needed a little more seasoning, so they had to go to a lower level of the minor leagues. But they were not going to be welcome in Virginia. And Branch Rickey called the general manager of that team in Virginia and said, don't you send them here. Well, there was a team in the Midwest that he could send them to. It was called the 3I League for Illinois, Iowa, and Indiana. And the commissioner of that league said, if you send those blanks here, I'll shut the league down. Wow. Well, then he called a young general manager in Nashua, New Hampshire. And he said, I've got these 2 players. Can they play? And the general manager of that Nashua club said, can they play? And Branch Rickey said, they can play. And the general manager said, if they can play, they can play. That young man had a funny nickname, Buzzy Bavasi. Went on to become the longtime general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Went on to become president of the San Diego Padres. And when he retired, our own Larry Lucchino, who owns the Worcester Red Sox, sat down with Buzzy Bavasi, because we were with the San Diego Padres. I sat down with him, and Larry was realizing that you can get so much wisdom from your elders. You can ask questions and learn so much. And Larry would sit there and ask him questions. And Buzzy Bavasi told us firsthand stories. And he was about late 80s, maybe 90 years old. And we learned a lot of these stories firsthand. Think about it. His only question was, can they play? So when you play sports, it's not about the yapping. It's about the playing. Baseball was a way for Jackie Robinson to communicate and say, we can all play together. Now can't we?
And when did Jackie start playing baseball? When do we think the first time Jackie ever picked up a bat?
Gosh,
That's a good question.
If you're from Pasadena, California, where the sun shines year round and the temperatures are nice, I would imagine as soon as he could pick up a wiffle ball bat.
From Pasadena. Now another student wants to know, where did he live? Did he
In Pasadena.
in Pasadena? Did he spend his off seasons there? Did he?
Oh,
that was
yeah. Well, I don't know. He later lived in Connecticut,
later.
but he grew up in Pasadena, which is part of Los Angeles County, and not that far from Dodger Stadium.
This student would like to know, what awards did Jackie Robinson?
So he breaks the color barrier in 1947 and wins the Rookie of the Year award. He won a host of awards. Yeah.
Was he the best player of his time?
Certainly one of the best of his time. Certainly one of the best of his time. You're playing in an era of the late 1940s and early 1950s when Joe DiMaggio is playing. Mickey Mantle is coming on the scene. Duke Snider is coming. There were some great players. But he was so great in his time that he's in the Hall of Fame.
Another student would like to know how old he was when he made it to the major leagues.
Well, 1947, and he was born in 1919, right? Let's do that math. So was he 28?
All right, there we go. Charles didn't hire me for my math abilities, kids. Anyways, did any of his
Focus
family...
on math.
You
and
focus
English.
on math and English, exactly right. Did any of his family members encourage him to play baseball?
I
We
think
just
so.
talked about
Yeah.
what a rock and unbelievable woman Rachel Robinson is at 100 years old.
And I don't know what his relationship was like with his big brother, but think about it. His big brother was an Olympian. So there was certainly athletics in the family. All right.
Another student
Mhm.
would like to know about Jackie's parents.
I don't know too much about that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good question.
Thank you to Mr. Connolly's fifth graders. Those were
We've got
great
more.
questions. We are now on to Mrs. Catherine Jock's fourth grade class at Vernon Hill.
Still at Vernon Hill. All right.
What did Jackie Robinson love the most other than baseball?
The one thing he loved more, what he loved more than baseball was Rachel.
Was Rachel, exactly. What was Mo Vaughn's favorite baseball game ever?
I know the game you're going to say. Go ahead. Tell them what happened. Watch this.
I don't know. Don't put me on the spot like that. Charles.
Opening day, what year?
Opening day. Let's see. His big league debut.
No, remember the game
After
we're
the-
down like 4-2 in the bottom of the ninth on opening day at Fenway Park? What, 1995?
That was the year that he won the MVP.
And didn't he hit a walk-off grand slam? Wasn't that like the moment of all moments?
Yeah. Well, hey, we still want to get Mo to Worcester, and we will be sure when we do, we will be sure to clarify that question from Mo. When did Jackie Robinson start his baseball
Well,
career?
we know he was born in 1919, played baseball right on through, and coming right out of UCLA, and played in the Negro Leagues. So right in there.
A question for Oil Can here. How many wins did Oil Can Boyd get when he was a pitcher? He won 16 games in 1986 and was a key member of that team that won the pennant in '86. But we'll have to.
78 and 77.
Brendan is operating the camera. Brendan, how many?
78 wins in his
78. But
78 wins for
nothing
Oil Can.
like being part of a World Series participant. 1986, The Red Sox are the American League champions, and Oil Can Boy helps get them to the World Series. And who was his catcher? Rich Gedman from Worcester. Rich Gedman grew up right where I'm pointing my finger out the window, and now he's our hitting coach of the WooSox. Pretty amazing.
How many home runs did Jackie Robinson ever hit out of the park?
I don't know which ones were inside the park or outside the park. Most of them were outside the park.
Exactly right. What impact did Jackie Robinson's career have
That's
in
what the whole
baseball?
story is.
Talked
Keep
a
going.
bit about that. When did all of you start baseball, and did people ever judge you?
You bet. I was able to begin my baseball career, not because I was a good player, I wasn't, but because when I was 17 years old at my high school, I was allowed to do a senior project in senior year where I could work for 1 month for free for my hometown baseball team. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I got to work for the Baltimore Orioles for 1 month. And through 4 years of college and 4 years of dental school, yes, I'm a dentist, I continued to work in baseball, and now all these years later, I've still been able to work in baseball while also being a dentist.
I started playing t-ball when I was 5 years old. Did people ever judge me? You bet. I was always very undersized growing up. I started to grow a little bit more in high school, and I stuck with it. I kept playing baseball, and it helped me get into Union College, where I played and started for all 4 years. But people certainly judge me, and you get past it, and you move on.
Here's the next one. Did Jackie ever want to give up? You bet. It's natural. You're going to go through times when you want to give up. The key was he didn't. That's the difference. We all go through times when we're like, oh, is this worth it? I can't take it. But he had that strength, that determination, that perseverance to keep going. You have that inside you. You do. Yes, you do. And I'm sorry, but you will get tested. There will be times when you have to draw on that, but you can do it. Jackie not only did it, he teaches us that we can do more than we think we can.
How many times has Jackie Robinson played baseball? A lot.
Well, over 10 years in the major leagues.
1,416.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Brent. Here we go on to Miss Emily Galante's Burncoat students.
Hello, everybody at Burncoat. All right.
Hello, Burncoat. How did Jackie die?
As I said, from diabetes, complications from diabetes in 1972. We talked about how many home runs.
We talked about how many home runs.
And he used to steal bases.
This student wants to know, how many bases did he steal in order to get Rookie of the Year?
Well, I don't know how many he stole in 1947. Brenda may check that.
29.
But
29
that
bases.
wasn't why he was the Rookie of the Year. That contributed. 29 bases he stole. He stole 29 bases, but it was just the way he played. His offense, his defense, his base running. And he was a good teammate.
How did he hold in his anger so well? I know we talked about
I think that's, rather than a question, I think that's an exclamation. How did he deal with his anger so well? How did he do that? I think that's what we all wonder.
Why did he retire so young?
He wasn't that young. Remember, he hadn't been allowed to play till he was 28 years old. And he played 10 years. Playing until you're 38 is not that unusual in baseball. Some players get to play a couple extra years, but not many. So it's, why did he start so late? And that's because he was already 28 by the time he broke the color barrier.
Did Jackie stop segregation?
Jackie, you can describe this way, started the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Act was passed by Congress. Civil Rights Act of 1964. Jackie Robinson played 17 years before that. Before Rosa Parks got on a bus. Before Brown versus Board of Education. before the United States military was integrated. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a sophomore at Morehouse College, not yet this great civil rights leader, when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. In team sports, he was the beginning, and that started the civil rights movement in America, most would say.
One student wants to know how tall Jackie was.
Don't know that one. Brendan will look that up. Of course, I'm going to
5'11".
go. What is it?
5'11".
5'11". Yeah, not exceptionally tall.
All right. On to Mr. Josh Channels. Chanel, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Also from Vernon Hill School. Thank you to the
Sixth graders.
The sixth graders. And we thank Vernon Hill for submitting all these questions. We love our friends from Vernon Hill. What challenges did he have to overcome?
We've gone over that.
Gone into that. How did Jackie impact baseball?
Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of Big Papi? Have you ever heard of Pedro Martinez? You would have never heard of Big Papi, David Ortiz, or Pedro Martinez, or Manny Ramirez, or Mookie Betts, or Xander Bogaerts, or any other player of color if no one broke baseball's color barrier. And all of this paved the way for the other sports too. So he's the reason we enjoy baseball as much as we do today, because the best players play. It doesn't matter what color you are, and it does not matter what gender you are. You wait and see.
Another sixth grader would like to know why he kept playing, even though he was hated. We've certainly dived
Well, we talked about that.
to that.
Baseball was the way to communicate.
And how did he affect other players?
Let me tell you how. I'll give you a very important example, and I know we're near the end. When he broke the color barrier and joined the Brooklyn Dodgers, obviously all the other players were white, because he was the first African American. And there was a player named Dixie Walker who went to Branch Rickey and said, "I'm not playing with him." And Branch Rickey said, "Okay," and he traded Dixie Walker, who was a really good player. 17 years later, in 1964, Dixie Walker was a hitting coach for the Milwaukee baseball team. They weren't the Brewers. They were the Milwaukee Braves. Today's Atlanta Braves moved to Atlanta in 1965 from Milwaukee. So Dixie Walker was the hitting coach for the Milwaukee Braves. And a young man, 29 years old, was so enthusiastic about the Milwaukee Braves. He got to know them, and he got to have dinner with the manager and the coaches of the Milwaukee Braves. And this 29-year-old man surprised himself when he heard himself say to Dixie Walker, "Dixie, do you regret that you did what you did when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier?" And Dixie Walker, in his southern accent, said, "Buddy, I do regret it, and I'm sorry that I did that. But I'm from the South. I think it's Mississippi. You can check Dixie Walker. It was Alabama or Mississippi." He said, and it was the segregated South. He said, "I had never met an African American before, of any kind. And that was what I knew my whole life, that I had never met one. And now you tell me I'm going to play with one, I'm going to eat with one, I'm going to live with one, I'm going to travel with one. No, that was foreign to me. But I'll tell you something else." He said, "I got to know Jackie Robinson. And the more we got to know each other, we built a relationship. I wrote him letters. He wrote me back. And you know what?" And this is 1964. He said, "Jackie said to me, we're straight. We're good." This is 1964, 17 years after that had happened. 33 years later, 1997, it's the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. And that man who was 29 years old was now commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig. And he decides to retire Jackie Robinson's number. You know the number, 42, so that Jackie's achievement will be remembered forever. And Bud Selig, the commissioner of baseball at the time, meets Rachel Robinson, Jackie's widow, and he tells her the story of that dinner with Dixie Walker. And Rachel Robinson says, "Commissioner, every word you just said is true." Jackie got to know Dixie. Dixie got to know Jackie. She said, "I still have the letters." The more they interacted together, the closer they became. She said, "And isn't that the point?"
Let's wrap it up with questions from Miss Kimberly Dema's fourth graders at Lincoln Street School. How did Jackie take the mistreatment / racism so well? Didn't always take it well, right, Charles?
I think he took it out on the baseball.
Yeah.
I think that some of the great baseball players have found baseball therapeutic. Ted Williams did not have a happy childhood. He's regarded as the greatest hitter of all time. But my goodness, he would wake up early in the morning in the summer and he would hit until the sun went down. In fact, Joe Bradley's father wrote the definitive book on Ted Williams. It is a masterpiece. And your dad got right into the heart of that, and he would just hit that ball and take out his frustrations on the baseball. A lot of players did that. Frank Robinson did that. I think Jackie Robinson's therapy was play. Don't underestimate how healthy it is to play.
And the last question from this fourth grade class is, how did Jackie stay so focused in life, school, and sports?
You can do it too. That's part of the lesson. That's why we study the life of someone who has influenced our lives. When it gets difficult, it is difficult. When it gets challenging, it is a challenge. It's challenging for you. It's going to be even more challenging as you go through school and go through college, go learn a vocation, whatever it is you do. There are going to be frustrations and challenges. It's how you handle them. And think about how Jackie Robinson handled it so well. It may just help you handle it well too. Thank you all so much for joining us today. By the way, we did answer some of the questions in the chat. I know we had some from Gates Lane. I know from Ms. Lynch's class, we got a couple. So we say hi to all of you from all of the schools, and we really appreciate how thoughtful your questions are. And together, we keep the memory alive of someone who has enabled all of us to dream big, and keep dreaming.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at Polar Park this season. And as a Worcester Public School student, Charles, they get to come to Polar Park.
Every single one of you gets a free ticket to a ball game this season. Say hi when you come.
Thank you.